glad you guys came to Chick-fil-A today. Alright, so we'll talk about GIS. Interesting thing, a lot of times I do presentations for groups and they're usually just regular generic business people, so I'm like very excited that I'm with a group of like-minded people in the same profession. So some of it's got to be very high level, but some of the things you'll see, you'll immediately realize it's more, involved. And after the presentation, you can do Q&As and you can ask very specific questions, technical or generic or business related, and that's totally fine with me here, so that'll be great. So a little bit of background of where I sit. I technically sit in the strategy and analytics department. So historically, we have been the research arm of the real estate division under field operations. And when I first started with Chick-fil-A, running out about 6 years now, I was supporting 9 people. So prior to this, we had me coming on doing GIS full-time at Chick-fil-A. We kind of cobbled together some Esri products to do site selection and sales forecasting. So that's the main goal of my current group. I basically was brought in to rebuild a lot of desktop tools to help us forecast. Since then, we'll go through all the other stuff that we started working on. But we'll talk about how I got from supporting 9 users to currently 620 power users. So someone who's using Portal with advanced, reporting tools or geospatial tools over server. All the operators for Chick-fil-A have access to some form of map powered by Esri. So that's running on 2000. A lot of custom tools there. We'll talk about how we got there. And really, when I started, I was the only full-time GIS professional at the time. I have 2 more folks under me, but the amount of things we're supporting at this point is, I can give you kind of a high level, probably 24 custom maps, running on 2,500, 3,000 users, and I have 2 analysts under me. So we're doing a lot with very little people resources. So it's a lot of this is kind of about how you scale, right? And if you get into the weeds about just doing everything yourself, you won't be able to grow. And so how do you scale, right? And to get to a point where you can build momentum. And it's really about getting critical mass where you can kind of go from a really small group to a much larger user base, because we all know that GIS is incredibly important in pretty much all fields out there. I mean, I can argue that 100% of Chick-fil-A's data has a spatial component. It's always tied to a store. It's always tied to something geospatial, where they're understanding where customers are coming from or where they're going to. It's all intertwined. So for organizations to continue under leveraging GIS is, I think, it's travesty. So when I first started, a lot of this, was really about just doing really the basics, right? Just mapping stuff and having printed reports. And I was like, well, we can do kinds of cool stuff like this, where we can just compare where are our competitors in relation to us. So if you look in, so these are our bids. If you look here in the Georgia area, you can see that Chick-fil-A is in red. There's very few grids or tessellations where Chick-fil-A has a bigger presence. And so for us, that was kind of interesting. So we started tracking that. So a lot of the backing in data, so competitor data. So we have competitor data that we update every single week. So there's millions and millions of points that competitor data we have access to. We cross-reference that with Chick-fil-A location, obviously, data we have to create something like this. But obviously, you start doing stuff like this, you pique interest, but you want to do more. In 2019, things shouldn't be just stagnant, right? So what we started doing was, if you know Chick-fil-A, a lot of our corporate staff travel, right? Either to consult operators or going to the field to figure out where are the best sites to build new Chick-fil-A. So obviously, we just started like, why are we still printing maps and taking into the field? So was like, okay, let's put together a portal. Let's throw some of our data in there. We've done that, so great. Let's put it on Collector, let's put it on Explorer. Let's just get the word out there, the data's there, right? So we shouldn't be wasting time, either people printing maps for themselves or asking you to print maps. So this is kind of what we started doing. So this started kind of growing with the real estate group. So we had a foundation once we started having portals together. So a lot of this after that was creating GP tools, right? And putting it on servers. So instead of giving everyone a desktop or pro license and having them, click a lot of buttons, and you might create a model and put that out there. The interface is not as great in that interface. So what we did was we had custom applications. When we talk about the 20-some custom applications we built and published out. And the reason why that gained a lot of traction is we can do things like this, where you can just click a point on a map, name your point something, whatever location it is, and under 7 seconds you create a 2-page demographic report that's customized for what you need, right? So even without really saying, what is GIS or what is this doing, people inherently understand what this is, right? A lot of times you see people, it's like, well, what is the demographics of the store? And they don't think about any of the geography, like, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about 1 mile, 2 mile, drive distance, customer population, what are we talking about? And so this way, this ties in the geospatial to something they're used to thinking about, these reports. And so now I think we have several dozen reports, or several dozen tools that do different things. Some are very involved. Something like this just requires infrastructure to do. But this is a really easy way for people to start asking the right questions, right? What is store demographics? And from there, they'll ask questions like, if I put another store near this store in Macon, what will it do as far as sales cannibalization and regrowth? How do we track that? Those are the kind of questions, geospatially minded questions, that people could start asking. And so once we have WebViewer, what we started to do was think about how do we do things more in real time. And so one of the challenges we have at Chick-fil-A is delivery. We have to deliver a tremendous number of times to stores all the time. So you can use something like GeoEvent Server, and you can track every truck across the entire country. You can push about 3,000 records per second, and it can update on the map. Again, we have a platform to push some of this data through. I know it's hard to see, but what's happening here is if either the speed of the truck or the temperature, if it's a cool truck, rises above a certain unsafe level, depending on the geography, you can send whoever is the owner of that geography an email saying that, hey, this truck on this route, the temperature got too hot. Right? And so, again, you're leveraging GIS, but the end user doesn't really have to know all the ins and outs of GIS. Should they, shouldn't they, I don't know. But it starts getting people to ask questions and saying, this should be the norm. Why is this not happening? So these are the things we started pushing more real-time analysis. So I don't really think about GIS just in terms of keeping it within Esri. A lot of great things that Esri does. Some stuff they're quite bad at. And I know a lot of the project managers, so I know someone talked about Survey 123. Initially when they launched our product, I talked, I know the product developer, Ishmael, extremely smart guy, and I'm like, there's some huge gaps in what you're trying to do here. Same thing with Portal, I tried in and said, this product is not good enough in this front. It's amazing, it's not good here. Operations dashboard, really like it. A lot of stuff in there, I still rip them apart, and I'm very open about that, right? So for me, GIS, one of the gaps that Esri has is more on the visualization front. That's not map-based, right? And so what we started doing was leveraging tools like Power BI, Tableau across the organization. But what's powering the data is actually our data from the SD. So you can do updates in an Esri product, let's say collector, but it can push real time into non-map centric reports, right? And so what we're doing here, I have to kind of block out some of this, is I'm mashing up our GIS data with their POS data. So this is at the transactional level. So you're looking at billions of transaction records that you can drill into. So I can tell you, in this scenario, I can pick a single store, and I can tell you exactly how many waffle fries or Chick-fil-A sandwiches we sold in any given hour, and really down to any given transaction, right? And so that's merging the two together. So the more you can merge GIS and make it seamlessly flow into other tools that your organization is using, that really helps, right? So, but you should be the owner, the subject matter expert on anything geospatial, right? So Chick-fil-A is a large company. We have, enterprise analytics or business insights. We have other groups that do quote unquote some of this mapping, right? But they are nowhere near as proficient in geospatial analytics as someone like you guys, as anyone here. So helping them understand why it's important and why they need to think about things differently is important. And one of the ways to do that is to push geospatial data or the results of it and mash it up with other data sets. A lot of my work now really revolves around a lot of non-math stuff, I gotta say. I pretty much passed on most of the GIS work to my analysts. The only GIS work I focus on currently would be really on the big data analytics set. So things like the Geoanalytics server, helping with that. The business analyst product as well, I'm working at that as well. And then non-GIS stuff, like working with things like pandas. So if you don't know how to do scripting using ArcPy, really helps, even if you just want to loop through things and automate some of that. It's really, really a great tool, skill set to learn. But what I also end up doing is smashing it up with things like, let's say, Google Trends. One of our enterprise analytics forecasters would see things like, well, about a month before we open, we noticed there's a spike in Google Trends. They're manually doing this. And we can somehow correlate that with grand opening sales at any Chick-fil-A. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And at the time I was doing this, we were just opening our Manhattan store, and then we were just opening our Las Vegas store. And so I wanted to see programmatically if that makes sense. So what I did was look at the, the New York DMA in Manhattan and the Las Vegas DMA and say, designated market area. So I think equivalent to MSAs. And about a month before, you see a spike here. And that actually correlated to grand opening sales, and I was actually, oh, this is really intriguing. So one thing we started doing was, if you script this, you can automate this, right? So you can almost daisy chain it, where you can run a script inline in Model Builder, and then run some of the results, and then write it up as an input to another tool. So you can do really interesting stuff that way. So those are the kind of things we started moving into. So overall, I mean, it just started, it's a journey from going from a lot of desktop tools, going to mobile, and then really pushing that into analysis tools, and then really thinking about things in real time or near real time, if it makes sense for you guys, and then really putting it in different platforms, not just as centric, maybe it could be another tool, and putting it somewhere else, and really also now it's getting to the data science analytics piece. Currently, my main focus is on, processing really large data sets. Like, I talked about the POS data set. That's actually not the largest data set I'm working with. A lot of the big stuff I'm working on will be based around, device log data, things like cell phone data, location data. On that front, if you look across the entire country, really you're just crunching through, let's say, somewhere close to 100 million records. And so the challenge there is, you're not only looking at a lot of records, but you're looking at spatially aware records, and then some of the tools of what you're trying to do. Let's say you're trying to route 25 million routes in one go, and you need to do it quickly enough. That's challenging because some of those tools cannot be distributed or parallelized. And so how do you account for some of those things? So those are the kind of problems we're having. And these are some of the discussions we're having at Esri as far as road mapping some of their products about what needs to get better. And then even within, just a general data science realm, pushing the envelope as far as what's possible. So always in this slant of, we're not doing enough GIS within this realm. It's kind of merging the data science with the GIS. It should be one and the same. But I feel like there's always a disconnect when I go to the Python conference or an Esri conference. there's a weird disconnect where GIS seems like this weird unicorn off to the side by itself. But in my mind, it should all be one and the same, right? And both sides should be in the middle somewhere and learn from each other. And so just overall growth and how this happened. So I started in 2013, but really I didn't start pushing out the WebGIS until 2015. And the real high bucket groups would be our EC executive community group. So a lot of stuff is under there. The red dot is my group. And so in September 2015, you see we have 130 people now. And then quickly we started adding more people every month, right? And so right off the bat, within a year in, we have all these other groups, like if you look at the second line, field ops, the region up there, already have a great bit more user base using GIS tools than we do it in my own group. So it's really thinking about, well, I said look, it's just a group, but there's a huge need for GIS tools and GIS in every other group, many other groups across Chick-fil-A, so why are we not pushing that out? And so that's what we started pushing out. And by June 2017, we had 323 people. So I got 200 people using, web maps and GIS tools by myself until I hired my first GIS hire under me. So we did quite a bit. So once he came on, we were able to really push things out, right, where I can say, what do you need? Let's build this. Let's go fast. Let's give you that. So this is 2017. It's actually quite outdated at this point. Today we have 624 users. So from June 2017 to where it is today, like a year and a half, we doubled again. So quite a bit. I think at this point our restriction is the number of portal licenses we have. I didn't think we were going to get this many users this quickly. So as you can see, market research, basically my group, is here in red. And operations, all these other groups have a much bigger user base. And this isn't just about like giving licenses to people. Every single person here that we put on the portal, they have to go through training. We have to sit down with them and walk them through how to log in, what the tools are, what it isn't. And a lot of times they've come back and they ask for more and secondary training, so we've done that. And so this isn't like going to give to corporate. And so that's why when we look at the numbers, 620 users for me is impressive, but we have 40 functional groups. That's every EC member group, executive committee member. And we have an active user base, over 80% active users logging in and using the product at least once a month. If you take it once a week, that number drops to 70%, which is still quite high. And then this is not even counting our operators who rely upon where our stores are, where we might be going. That's just a likelihood. So I think that's been a great accomplishment for GIS and at Chick-fil-A. So I just want to encourage you guys. I know a lot of times I know everyone's going to struggle. It's like the importance of GIS. A lot of times the powers be above, they don't really recognize that and never get resourced quite that well. So prior life I worked in the utility sector, I worked in local government, I've done research as well and development work for planning firms and so forth. And I mean it's always the same everywhere. It's like even now, it's like as much as we're able to do, I mean it's really a team of three. And supporting several thousand people with the number of tools and the quality of tools we're pushing out, we're heavily under-resourced, but we try to scale as best as possible. But what you do is important. Whether people recognize it or not, I think you guys need to power through, and I want to be encouraging to say, yes, GIS is important. It should be leveraged a lot more within the organization. Even if you think it's been utilized heavily within the organization, even at Chick-fil-A, I think we have a lot more to do and a lot left to do and a lot more educating to do within Chick-fil-A. That's all I have. Open it up to questions. You can be super technical, or you can talk about. So, I mean, just a little background of where I could possibly help, because I like to get things done. So for a while, I sat on our Chick-fil-A overall corporate technology strategy team. So we looked at 3 to 5 years ahead as far as what technology we should invest in. So I was part of that group. From the Esri front, I am one of the founding members of the business community. So basically figuring out what does the business side, commercial side need as far as tools, and why are we not pushing that far enough within organizations. So those are kind of the feedbacks I can take to them and help in that. So, questions? Or? Yes.
So what are some of the non-Esri programs and tools you're using to match up the data and work with the GIS project?
Yeah, so as far as forecasting, so we're technically an Oracle shop, but I had to make the really big push to put everything into SQL Server, so Microsoft has title relations. So the SE is built on top of Microsoft SQL Server, and so learning DAX. So I have a SQL Server analysis services that's built on top of that as well. So when data gets updated within the SE, it's technically pushed into a table within SQL Server. That's being leveraged in SSS, SQL Server Analysis Services, where you can do data modeling. So learning things like DAX. So if you know DAX, SQL Server Analysis is super powerful. But the same technology is used in Power BI. So if you know DAX, that carries over. So all the visuals you see there, you can build that on top of there. So super important where, as far as the user experience, it becomes great. Other things I work on a lot would be heavily in Python at this point. And so a lot of the libraries, so even things like doing field calc in Esri is very slow, the way it's written. But if you want to do things like Pandas library, and Jupyter Notebook, extremely quick because it's written basically, it's a C compiler. So the speeds are so much better in that part. So that's kind of
your web mapping applications, the one you were showing on that PowerPoint, do you use ArcGIS solutions, or is it just all custom?
So we thought about different things. Really what we ended up doing because of the scale and skill sets was we went with web app builder. So if it's a desktop-based web app builder is really the way to go because you can pass that on to another analyst and you can maintain that pretty easily because a lot of the security is set there. And if you haven't federated, if you federate your server with your portal, then that gives you an extra layer of security. And so that's kind of what we leverage. And most of our time is spent building geoprocessing tools, GP services, where that's really the meat and bone, right? The visuals are there, but all the widgets that Esri has, it makes it really nice to use. And so you can very quickly get up and running.
You said you had 620 users, and I guess that's at your corporate. How many total employees are there? So what percentage is that of your total?
Yeah, I think currently probably around 1,600 full-time staff, so about.
And the Chick-fil-A app that I have on my phone, is that an Esri app or is that?
No, that's powered by someone else. So that's really built from the marketing side. I believe the guys who did that was called Bottle Rocket, who also did the things like Marriott app. We do consult with their marketing group quite a bit. So there are some data being collected through the Chick-fil-A One app as well. Some of how the data is being leveraged. As far as customer profiling, a lot of that we help them with as far as, it's not really a map, but as far as markets, how we, segment our customers within the market, a lot of GIS from, that's going into that as well.
Is your presentation slide available?
Yeah, I could send this out. A lot of it I use within Esri presentation, so I think it's probably available. Big chunk of it, I just update some of these slides with the new numbers, but I could send out a PDF of it.
Did I hear you correctly in your presentation that you were using Tableau?
Yeah, corporately we support Tableau. I'm not the biggest fan of Tableau, and some of it is the way our corporate implemented that product. I think it's a fine product, but if you're within Esri, Power BI is definitely the way to go. I think there's a quote of me on the Esri website on Power BI because they have like a plugin really, really helpful. And if you're on AGOL, even more helpful. But if you have on-prem portal, Spencer Ball is the product manager for that. I've been asking him to be able to bring in, portal, the big P, your internal portal, connect at the Power BI. Then you can bring more polygon layers and do other analysis. But for me, Power BI it's a product that makes way more sense if you have Esri sitting on top of your databases.
Yeah, and you guys are, from a corporate standpoint, are pretty much standardized on the platform. Is that?
On the geospatial, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else that comes through at this point. I mean, initially, it was really dumb in my opinion, where people try to say, oh, Esri, they do similar things, and it's just like, no, it doesn't. Then you have to kind of blow them away and say why it's different. So you have to get beyond just doing basic maps. I mean, if you look at Tableau, some of the limitations the way it consumes, let's say even just point data, because it's really just mapping X, Y, that there's kind of a hard limitation of loading the roughly 2,000 points before it starts kind of getting really sluggish. And Power BI kind of has that problem unless you use the ArcGIS plugin or the Mapbox plugin. And so understanding that is important. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard you talk a little bit about point of sale access and usage of that data. When you guys are plugging away and looking at how those offline purchases are mapping up into your data, do you have a private relationship with the point of sale company, or is there sort of an open API or a general reference for this kind of communication?
Yeah, our POS data is not open to, there is no API for that. One, it's too large, and two, obviously we're going to keep that locked away. So I have access to that. Some people have access to that at Chick-fil-A, just like the Chick-fil-A One app. That data is very sensitive that we don't open up and we don't sell. There's no benefit for us to sell something like that. I know other companies out there would do it where they can pull from the POS, like during the Super Bowl. I know people who work on these products where they can tell you how much beer is sold at any given hour at the Super Bowl, but our data is not. So we do get data loaded into a NoSQL database every day, so we get that done.
But you guys are looking at offline purchases, particularly in the store that are connected to maybe your digital marketing or strategy based on.
So this is where a lot of it's, we're trying to match up a lot of what we're seeing with their either app data or other cell phone data vendors with their POS data. The challenge there is we're not willing to give any of our POS data to some other vendor. But without that, marketers can't really match up that well.
I'm coming from a marketer standpoint, so that data would be absolutely valuable and highly marketable by the point of sale system in communication with the GIS information.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where the gap is. A lot of the marketing guys are missing on the GIS front. Although I will say, I was meeting with the Clear Channel guys out of New York, and they have a pretty strong GIS group, and they understand geospatial. So they're doing some interesting stuff there on that front. So yeah, the industry is catching up.
So, for those who are really technical driven, this data is really impressive. So you talked about your marketers. A lot of that is really personalized. There's a lot of debate around cell phone usage and quality and privacy and what you should have. So I'm wondering, how do you get a degree of confidence and excitement continuing in your marketing folks that this data is practical and relevant and really going to get them to a place where users or consumers are excited about the product?
So as far as privacy, from the very get-go, the vendor I know Tribune, they're actually a European company, so they're very aware of GDPR. So they were GDPR compliant even prior to the European standards of GDPR took root. But I think it feels like a lot of the breaches that you've seen in the US and Facebook and some of the other big companies, now we're starting to adopt GDPR. So that's not to say a breach isn't going to happen, but the data that we're getting from these vendors they're GDPR compliant, so they've absolved themselves about how they got the data was in the correct manner. It adheres to GDPR. One thing I don't do is really, so the data vendor actually does, to very few people do they sell the raw data, specifically because of the creepiness factor. They don't really sell the marketers the raw data because of these things, but because we're looking at our own internal customers, we do buy, they do allow us to buy the raw data, customer data. It does get creepy, so when I talk to, generally people across the business, or even if I have to use externally, I don't talk about it in any raw sense. It's always aggregated. And even the data we're getting, it's slightly, again, there's a hash for each ID, so I can't really tie that with anything specific. Even the actual pure location is on a 7-digit GUI hash, which still isn't exactly correct, but it's pretty tight that where it's usable. So so that's what we do. As far as the marketing group or certain business users, we make real decisions off of this data. We do site selection that costs millions of dollars of investment to build, put an operator, give them livelihood, and returns for the company. So if the data is wrong or sales forecast is off, we're going to hear about it. Right? And so we have to be accurate, or as accurate as possible with the best data. That's not to say there is no variance. There is a variance. Right? All data has some sort of problems. At least the ones you buy, even a POS data has some problems, right? As far as I look at it. So being able to make data informed decisions, I think that's important.
Can you talk a little bit about site selection, how that works in general, the process?
Yeah, so if you go back a little bit, so you see all these green dots up there. We have people who actually hit the pavement across the country and look at every single major intersection. We get broker information about what might be a good area. So we've actually strategized the entire country about where we would like to be. Right, so Lennox Square, if there's a spot open, we would love to do that. They have adopted, it doesn't mean we're going to get it. But if it becomes available, some of it's heavy, right? We would love to do that. We've identified that. And so once a deal potentially is open and say, so-and-so, the Burger King's leaving at a certain location, our brokers would call us, hey, is this of interest? And then our real estate deal makers would come to my group and say, hey, I need to know what sort of forecast, what kind of sales we would do here. And so our guy could go out and look at this area again, come back in and say, is this the right spot? And from there, we would say, okay, we do a sales projection based on geography. We dump out some demographic data about that area. That gets loaded into our sales forecasting model. That generates a forecast for, depending on when it opens, what sort of sales volume we would do. We would also geospatially look at, if a new store goes in there, if there's some neighboring store, what would be the cannibalization, the sales transfer that will be impacted for that as well. And then what would the recovery look like? So those are the kind of things we look at. But it really just comes down to hitting the field and saying, where do we want our stores to be in our different locations.
So I have a question about maybe your position at Chick-fil-A, being a large corporation. Would you say that you are really the geospatial executive or GIO of the organization?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask that is I assume so.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned earlier that there are many divisions or organizations that use geospatial technology. A lot of the folks in the membership of our chapter really are not all, but most of them from public sector organizations. So it's really great to hear a perspective from the private sector and use and implementation of geospatial technology. But I was wondering about your peer network. From our standpoint, we have a pretty strong peer network and association, and call each other and share implementations of technology, et cetera. In the private sector, in a position where there might be some propriety, non-disclosure kind of things going on.
It's funny, like I was just at the, a research conference for, site selection. And every time I go, it's kind of like, why am I here? Because everyone wants to learn stuff, but they have their own secret sauce where they don't want to give out. So a lot of times it's like, I didn't learn absolutely anything here. Why am I coming to this? So that happens, but you do meet interesting people because like within, let's say the commercial sector, the GIS folks, even within there, it's like the commercial, research sector generally is fairly small and you have to be a very large company to generally have a department like that. But even there, within the research group, there's like 1 or 2 GIS guys, unless like you're like Starbucks or Chick-fil-A or Walgreens, and you have a sizable GIS presence there. So really, I think going to like the business summit at UC, right before UC in San Diego, that's where you meet a lot of folks who kind of work in that field. That's how you network and you see interesting people. But it's not as like great as what ERISA is, so you don't really see that. Plus, even if they did meet, I don't know how much they would be willing to share. So that's like the weird part. So I think generally why I get asked to speak at every things or even, other things is because like generally I share. I mean, there are things I won't talk about, like exactly how I do certain things. Like when I talk about, I have this crazy routing problem where I need to route like, 25 million routes in like, I need to do it under 16 hours. Like, how do we achieve that? I'm not going to tell you exactly how I'm doing it, but I can tell you that it's a problem, right? And I can tell you, oh, you got 40 billion records, you need to sort that. Why that's a problem? I'm not going to tell you exactly how I get out of that, but these are the questions within the sector people are asking. But overall, everything else, what I'm using, super open about, talking about it. It's like, you might want to look at so and so. Like, generally, I'll talk about that. So I'm really open, just because I know, like ERISA and more in the public sector and utility, people are more willing to share, and I come from that background as well. And if you look in more of the programming community, let's say Python, they're all about sharing, and it's not about like money or all these other things that make sometimes complicate things. And so it's all about being open about stuff, right? But again, if I'm too open, then I can get in trouble by open stuff.
So you're saying you can share your GitHub repository with us?
I don't have a GitHub repository.
No.
We have one internally for our enterprise analytics that they do stuff on, yeah.
Your geoprocessing tools, you build those in model builder or do you build them straight through Python?
So it's a combination of both, but a lot of times, now it's actually mashing up both. So I'll do things like, I don't do this anymore, but when I have a problem with some of these things where I would do some, build a model builder, have a couple of tools in there, bring in a script tool. So let's say I need to run a Dropbox tool where I want to take the results and push it to a Dropbox storage location. Obviously, you have to bring in a Python script to do that. So pretty much most of the time now, it's just like model builder, but bringing in Python script because someone's publishing it out if you want to go to a service. That's kind of what we do.
So it seems like the usage of your products is scaled a lot faster than the staff that produces those did. So I imagine you guys get a lot of like requests about things that people would like to have. How do you kind of determine what direction you go as far as like new things to develop, new apps, things like that?
Yeah, initially when it was me, it's just like work really bad hours. I still work a lot of terrible hours, but now because initially when it's smaller, you can just work on a lot of stuff, right? Because they're smaller. But once you start scaling, like what I've noticed with this year or last year, because the products are so large and there's so many users that when something goes down or doesn't work, you hear about it and you have to stop everything to fix that. So right now it's being really strategic. So with my team, I was like, okay, strategically this is what I want to do 3 years, right? And the strategic goal was like, we want to be more than just GIS. We're going to do more GIS. It'll be probably a central skill set within our group, but we want to go past that. We said 2019, this is kind of where we want to get to. And then Q1, these are the things we're going to work on. And as long as it fits into a long-term strategy, that's kind of how we kind of work on right now.
So you're talking a lot about using GIS to make decisions, which is really cool. I'm curious how close to the local level that gets. Do your local stores use any GIS to make decisions or drive what they're doing?
Some, so the challenge, well, not really challenge, but our operator agreement is a little bit different. It's not really a normal franchisee model. So at the store level, there's a lot of autonomy as far as what the operator can do or don't want to do. So it's really up to them. We've engaged operators on a one-on-one basis before for things like catering or, yeah. So we've done stuff like that. And we do have people consulting to operators with specifically things like this report, right? We'll show you, we'll do more detailed things, not just even just about vertical. We can tell you what your trade area looks like, where 70 to 90% of your customers are coming from, and why, and what those folks look like.
Yeah.
So they're all being consulted to that based on geospatial.
That tapestry widget right there, is that a custom widget or is that part of the entry?
So it's a GP tools widget, geoprocessing widget, and then you plug this into the VA server. And that tool actually doesn't consume here correctly. There's custom stuff that needs to happen to bring it in. But basically, yeah, it's their reporting functionality that goes into the geoprocessing widget.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, sir. I think that was fascinating, the information that he was able to share, and y'all had some really great questions. So you see, I've already talked about what we're doing here in making insights and with Middle Georgia and Eurista. What I'd like to do now is to let everybody introduce themselves, because we've got a lot of new faces here. So everybody should have a lanyard. If you don't, then that's okay, we'll get you one. But I want to remind you that leave these lanyards on the table when you go out, because we're green here. We want you to feel special, but we want to recycle these as well. So and in the spirit of being here with the forest for people who want to save trees. So let's start at the front and just introduce yourself to the group and tell us what you're doing GIS-wise or what you'd like to do. And so we'll start with Matt.
Matt Beal, I'm an analyst with the Middle Georgia Regional Commission. Right now, working on a pretty wide range of projects as far as disaster analysis. Just wrapped up the census, and we're actually working on another project called Map 21, kind of a census of roads. So pretty broad scope of things.
Chris Davis, also the Regional Commission, basically what he said. We're also doing looking at our boundary and annexation for different cities throughout our Regional Commission area.
Michael Colbert, GIS Specialist, Georgia Forestry Commission. Currently doing a lot of stuff, but we're wrapping up a agricultural intervention project where we went out and read 12,299 water meters throughout the state. We've got about 100 guys that have been out doing that, using a collector, integrated with Survey 123, and cleaning that data up to deliver to the EPB this afternoon. So.
My name's Mary Martin. I work with Athens Clark County. They have a newly created Geospatial Information Services Office that was created about a year ago, and they hired a new Geographic Information Officer about a year ago who we used to work with, Joseph D'Angelo. Yeah. Basically, what we're trying to do is just get mainly the county and all the different departments coordinated with their GIS efforts and just try to get that office up and running. That's basically where we are. That info a lot of stuff.
So Joseph, please say hi.
I sure will.
Angela Brooks with the Macon County Tax Assessor's Office. Of course, we maintained, Department 1, maintained the parcel layer, but also I pushed out some internal web apps built through Web App Builder for our appraisers to use counties and doing different types of analysis and to help them in their job do a little bit better job using GIS. And I'm really trying to train them to, when they review properties, to actually look at the land and look at the map and, you know, to kind of double check me and our parcel. And, but like I say, I'm really trying to push out some more analysis type stuff instead of just polygons.
I'm Jeremy Newell. I work with Henry County Water Authority. One of my main projects I'm working on now is our equipment, our smart meter, replacement of our meters in our county. It's a multi-year project that we're doing ours, and that's my main project. I also support our other staff with some of our mobile equipment, mobile apps and stuff.
My name is Angie Ashel, and I'm a GIS department technician. I draw all the new projects that come in as sewer lines, water lines, all the subdivisions and commercial buildings projects that we have. And I also do all the easements that we acquire. I draw those, we have those mapped in our system. We also have a database that whenever you click on it, it tells you who owns it, it has all the data information to it, everything's there, everything that you need to know about that easement, when it was acquired, who was acquired from, any information you need. So our easements also draw mitigation lines, any properties.
Brandon Keller with Henry County. Right now, I'm mainly focused on our mobile appointments, paper and digital workflows, helping out all the field workers.
I'm Alan Wright, Henry County Water Authority. I'm the GIS manager. I carry their load. These guys are the boss.
My name is Kelvin Lewis. I'm the county administrator with Williams County. I kind of carry all of the hats around IT. Most of my career has been big corporate farm. I'm trying to bring a level of high-tech private sector excellence to county government. You know, a lot of the IT projects that they're talking about at the Dome, we're a small county, so you know, we're really scaling pretty quickly. So I'm just trying to find as much intel about that and to see how we practically apply that as we look to do a lot of stress testing and stuff.
Wonderful, welcome, thank you.
My name is Catherine Carter, and I'm with Chick-fil-A Academy. I mainly work at the Texas office, mainly facing the parcel layer as well as the accuracy development.
Alex Ferran, GIS and airport analyst for Baldwin County. Mostly doing GIS for the airport, which I was not hired for. And just trying to get our data foundational. Next project is going to be water and sewer data, which is nothing. So it should be quite irritating.
I'm Candace Gale. I'm the marketing and business development director for Food Services Company, and we are one of the small business providing GIS, community planning, public outreach, and community services. So I help with our procurement, I actually have background in GIS, so I have a lot of friends here.
That's right. You just had a big anniversary with Blue Cypress, right?
We did. We just celebrated 5 years of business.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Right.
I'm also with, my name's Sarah, but I'm also with Blue Cypress, and I'm GIS analyst. However, you know, it's a little bit GIS here and there, but then I do community outreach. But we really want to increase our GIS services, so hopefully that's our future direction.
I'm Janelle Watson, and I'm the election supervisor for Macon County. Yes, me. And we're using the Insights program and the GIS mapping tools. We're trying to incorporate them in just about every aspect of what we do here in Bibb County at the Board of Elections. We currently have approximately 104,000 registered voters, and we have about 100,000 of those voters that are actually active, and those numbers are growing by the day with DDS opting in instead of opting out. So everybody that goes through DDS, they automatically get registered, whether they're registered or not, so that creates a lot of duplicate work for us. And also with the online registration, all that has grown, so even though we don't have lines in the office, we're busy, I say virtually. So we're just looking to learn. I mean, this is very, very, very new for me, and what we do there, but it'll be a great tool for voters to use. They used it, in the 2018 elections, with helping voters to find their voting location, which minimized the call volume in our office tremendously. And, we're just looking to grow more technology-wise and catch up to the times, because people are doing it quicker than we are. You know, my little grandson can turn on phones and act like he's talking all day, and it's like, I'm just trying to catch up with what we're doing here. So that's what we're doing there in Macon-Dale County. So, and the census. I heard everybody talking about census, you know, that's coming up for us in 2020. They'll be redoing the census on 2021. We'll be doing the district thing, and then the test mode will be the 2022 election, whether all that's done correctly or not. We'll know that when people go out to vote and start calling us and saying, this is not where I'm supposed to vote. So hopefully working with these guys, we can get all that wrapped up and a lot more accurate going forward than they have in the past when everything manually.
Wonderful. And Janetta is one of the members of our Making Insights Data Academy cohort 8. Thank you for being here.
Tom Dillon, also Board of Elections for Macon-Dade County. Do what Jeanette says. Basically everything that she talked about, plus making sure that our polling places are properly located and our poll workers are staffed efficiently in places, their polling places and such.
Robert Jordan, the fire liaison at Macon-Dale 911 Center. I'm going to be working on the fire safety education analysis, and I'm also a part of the academy.
That's right.
Scott Jackson, Harvard Regional Commission, Treasurer. Pretty much hazardous risk assessment, map 21, census, custom web app building for the city, county governments, utility mapping.
Lisa Fulton, Senior GIS Analyst for ESG Engineering. Brand new venture with them, as well as supporting engineering and operations and any GIS needs they need for the contracts already existing and hopefully future.
Hi, my name is Charlotte. Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to see some familiar faces from the recent Georgia GIS conference. So I have evolved from being a GIS technician to an inspection services coordinator. So it's been an interesting ride, and I am desperately, that really sounds very desperate, but I would very much like to meet someone who is a subject matter expert in the happy marriage between EnerGov and GIS applications. And so anyway, GIS is my background, but I've sort of inherited EnerGov now. So if anybody knows about that aspect of Tyler Technologies, and maybe a little bit of Python in between, please be my new best friend. I would love it. Thank you. Lots of practicing in my future.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you. I'm Dustin Messer. I'm the Senior Engineering Technician with the Columbus Consolidated Government Engineering Department. One of our current projects that we've probably known forever is addressing and sub-addresses mostly, so unit department suites. But we also are working on implementing any and all GIS applications for our engineering department.
We told people on the GIS in engineering college students, basically anything from stormwater to natural capital, everything. And streets. And streets. I'll be cleaning the streets for the day out there. And it was gonna be an ongoing project, that's okay. Job security.
That's right. Thank you.
My name is Michael planning director over at Macon Planning and Zoning, and frankly, I'm more of a data consumer than I am a data generator in analytics work. So I will leave it to my colleagues in the back to describe what types of advanced analytics work we do right now.
Ken Powell, investment analyst for a private investor, venture capitalist, and we do
GIS is just something in my toolbox, financial analysis. We use it for natural resource management, forestry and agriculture, solar, minerals, oil and gas, site selection for retail, so kind of everything.
Welcome, thank you.
My name is Sam. Federal Vice Regional Commissioner. I'm the GIS planner. Currently working on us as a boundary administration survey. Also with the map 21, and we have all our local governments movements have GIS with all the GIS work.
I'm Brent Lanford. I'm the Deputy Director of the Middle Georgia Regional Commission here in Macon. And I've worked in GIS for a while, about 25 years. And I get the pleasure of working with our excellent GIS team.
I'm Michelle Kowalski. I'm the Technology Services Director at the Middle Georgia Regional Commission. And I could talk for a good hour about all the different projects that we're working on. Census, BAS, PSAP, Map 21, HAZAS, mapping cemeteries. I could go on and on.
Everybody, I'm Luke Howard, analyst with the GRC. I do that stuff too. And then he's also the GISP study group facilitator. So if you are interested in that, there's an information sign-up sheet in the back.
My name is Lucas Shaker. I own a company called Stand and Stretch out of Columbus, Georgia. We work with GIS to produce marketing data for companies who are looking for access to demographic information. We work with municipalities to understand growth in those small businesses in that area, and we're excited to be here.
I'm Brian Morton, also a Stand and Stretch. I'm the senior account manager over there.
Bethany Phillips. I'm Director of Digital with Stand and Stretch. I'm Kendall Ennis. I am the Web Project Manager with Stand and Stretch.
Thank you guys.
I'm Marcy Singh, the Brown Health in County, and I'm part of the Newport Ag. I'm Tina Davis, Macon Davis County, Environmental Health, also the Newport Ag. I'm also use GIS to help clean up environmental plans in Big County.
Thank you.
I'm Janine Hightower. I wear a couple of hats. I am your immediate past president for Georgia RISA. I have to say, we go to a lot of these, and you guys are really being committed. You're doing a great job down here, and I can't wait to go back and have all of our board members come down and sit in one of the meetings. Also, I work for a company called Navigational Electronics, and we are your Trimble map reviewer, and I've been here. This is my 25th year. So,
If you ever get the chance to hear the story of how she got to be, that's an awesome story.
Becky Cox, Stormwater Management, we're supposed to start with each county in the fall into more mapping, using it better. So I definitely need the information so I can put it in place.
Thank you for coming in.
I'm Daniel Linden, for HHT Consulting Engineers in Macon. I head up our GIS department and our, if it's department, it's just me, but I do our GIS big product for 6 years, and I do our drone program. I started that a couple years ago, so I'm trying to do big things with that. Working on a lot of projects to get people to stop printing out forms and filling them out in the field and typing them back in the office. So I got some progress with that last year. So I'm interested to hear. I don't really have scalability like all the government workers do here, but people still a lot of work. So I appreciate being here.
Thank you.
I'm Les Hampton, been in GIS for 20 years. GISP for 10. I'm the GIS manager for negative county planning and zoning, and we're also a metropolitan planning organization. So we do transportation data, planning, zoning data, and I build a lot of apps with web apps.
I'm Jim Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of Planning and Zoning here in Macon, and I guess that makes me management. So I'm one of the end users of the things, the models that the Just here trying to stay ahead of the curve, at least up with the curve on what's happening with new technology and tools that are available for my planners and staff to use. But mostly I'm here to make sure the lead stays on his leash.
I'm trying. Thank you, Jim. Well, and Jim's part of the Making Planning and Zoning Department, where we have our monthly user group meetings, which is over downtown at the terminal station. So you'll be getting information, but you're all welcome to come to our user group meetings as well. We just won't have lunch and there won't be, we have speakers you have to listen to me mostly. But those are at 3 p.m., not at lunchtime, so you've got it. Thank you, Jim.
I'm Mark Strocher, Communications Manager for Planning and Zone, Making Bid Planning and Zone, and GIS News.
I am a runner. I just come from the Making Bid County, and I taught this district for 3 weeks, so I'm still familiar with the environment. And I do know, I'm not exactly, as you guys did, not experience on the position yet, but I do want to find out the best solution to combine that program and GIS to serve our customer.
So we've had several members of cohort A introduce themselves. Right there we've got Mark and Kai, who are going to be cohort B, and Constance as well. They're going to be cohort B. So it's not that fast. So there's a sign-up sheet for cohort B if you want to know more information about that. Am I plugging these things?
Me again, Joe Nabhan, GIS analyst, Macon Bid County IT. I work with Jeff. My main goal is enterprise systems administration and also, I'd say, GIS community outreach. We're always looking to help improve our GIS community and working together with Jeff, we're working to make and bid smart, right?
That's right. Joe is my partner in crime, and he's a recently minted GISP, and he's a product of the GISP study group. So, which he started. So that's another impact. Rosanna is another one of the Columbus interns that, I'm sorry, Sandra, Rosanna's sister. Sandra, so she's here.
Well, the last one, take a very brief answer instead, coming from the non-responsibility government, tax assessor's office. I am the main person in the parcel area. We have around 30,000 parcels that we physically do. But our main use of GIS is pretty much for the maintenance of the maps. But I want to evolve in providing more analysis solutions, providing more checks, or just any way that we can come up with a formula to make the assessment for the appraisers do more job in formula. So I think that's how we are getting them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Paula. I work with Special Engineering. I'm the VP and project manager, and we do a GIS services company and do everything from supporting small municipalities to the Department of Defense to data collection and enterprise GIS systems.
Okay. So with that, everybody knows each other now. So any other questions or comments or announcements anybody like to make? It's a great turnout, beautiful environment out here. Take a pine cone when you go, right? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Our staff. Yes.